Once a novice researcher entering the difficult world of ethnographic contact with the Roma, I was recommended the books of Jerzy Witkowski, an outstanding Polish writer and legendary ethnographer, as a point of entry. I read them all with genuine passion, but today, to give someone a basic understanding of what is happening in the local Roma community, I would advise beginning with the instructions for writing founding applications for activities supporting Roma integration. The works of Witkowski are undoubtedly still valuable, but they speak of a different historical reality, like the figure of Romani blacksmiths now in the Roma Ethnographic Museum in Brno. The role for understanding the situation in and around Roma local communities in Poland has become more and more limited. Today, as intense efforts to integrate Roma communities are being made, the worlds of Roma and non-Roma overlap much more. This does not, however, mean that boundaries are blurring. That is why our research, carried out thanks to a grant from the Polish National Science Center, was focused on two considerable problems: the nature and new forms of ethnic borders between Roma and non-Roma, and the consequences of contemporary practices of Roma integration. The basic question which we would like to answer is: what social conditions allow for the cultural continuity of the Roma community? Why is there such a distance between Roma and non-Roma communities living side by side despite ongoing intensive intergroup interactions? Note that the Roma, from generation to generation, reproduce their communities by challenging the sociological models of social change. They do so without having their own religion, without a unified form of leadership, or without a real unifying political organization. What's more, for most of their history, they did not have a written historical record, as most Roma were illiterate. Their history was passed orally from generation to generation. They managed to survive regardless of the fact that they were a much poorer community in relation to social environment. We can say that the last three generations of Roma living in Poland have experienced unprecedented changes in their way of life. These changes were initiated by the forced settlement of wandering Roma groups in the 1950s and 1960s. The changes were also influenced by the Roma achieving the status of ethnic minority in the 1990s and the resulting multifaceted process of empowerment. The third element of the changes includes the integration and social effects of the EU and Polish state policies towards the Roma minority over the past 25 years. We cannot forget about the profound social, civilization and cultural changes that Poland, Europe and the whole world have experienced during that period. These are, on the one hand, changes concerning the transformations of the fundamental frameworks of the social structure and, on the other hand, the transformation of public discourse, its axiological foundations and rhetorical conventions. As a consequence, in contemporary Polish society, the issue of local relation with the Roma has ceased to be a private matter for citizens and local communities and has become a public and political issue. From the point of view of non-Roma community, their attitude towards Roma has become closely monitored and subject to rigorous top-down assessment. Top-down influence contributed to reinterpretation and new expressions of traditional distances. Previously felt prejudices have not gone away, they are just expressed differently. During this research, we created a typology of observed identity changes in Roma communities. These changes can be divided into 4 categories. First, complete individual or familiar departure from the Roma, joining the majority society, combined with a tendency to isolate oneself from the Roma community. Second, gradual acceptance of non-Roma patterns and practices limited to selected areas, completely unnoticeable from the perspective on consciousness, most often intertwined with a general change of approach to the world. This is probably the most common situation in contemporary Roma communities. Third, a conscious and reflective adoption of non-Roma life models while emphasizing and manifesting Roma in matters non-accessible to non-Roma. The latter type is especially strong in the circles of Roma intellectuals and activists. 4. Marginalization, consisting of the presence of families or individuals outside the social and cultural structures of both Roma communities and the majority society. These are the few Roma who have completely lost their group's axiological system and cultural competence in the area of the Roma tradition, but, on the other hand, have not gained full cultural competence in the majority culture and usually do not enjoy acceptance among the majority. While the rejection or abandonment of the Romani character is binary in nature, the acceptance and adaptation to the majority culture is gradual. There is also little in Witkowski's books about 2 words most often heard by non-Roma in Roma settlements these days: racism and discrimination. In this time, Witkowski, wandering for many months with the Polska Roma camps, complained about the researchers' lack of interest in Roma, and the Roma themselves were rather surprised by his presence. Today, there is a large group of anthropologists, ethnographers, and sociologists dealing with Roma, and Roma leaders themselves can conduct a kind of cultural policy by selecting and reviewing research and researchers. We have media that are sensitive to discrimination against Roma, but sometimes simply in the search for sensation, which take a specific position on local relations with Roma and which, through their messages, influence the emotions and interpretations of researchers. After all, they themselves write articles and anthropological books about themselves, pointing out mistakes by other researchers. I would not like you to get the impression that I'm trying to say today the world has turned upside down, but that said, the contemporary social situation of the Roma is obviously completely different to that which the works of classical Polish ethnography referred. The anthropological ways of answering this question have also changed. What exactly would the study of Roma be about? this is the result of the development of knowledge and especially of the reflective turn that took place in anthropology as well as in other social sciences at the end of the 20th century.